Hey guys, DPG here, David Patrick Green, hackhollywood.com. And I've sort of become inspired to share more and more of what it actually, not only I say it takes, but what it actually took to become a professional actor and book specific acting jobs. And so today I thought I would talk to you guys about how I booked the TV show Supergirl. Supergirl is a very, very popular show. Obviously, it's from the DC universe, I believe. I'm not much of a comic follower, at least not anymore. And anyway, so it was very exciting to book something that is so iconic and so well known around the world. Because when you get a job on a show that's well known, it raises your stock globally. If you're on a local show, it's really awesome. But, you know, let's say you wanted to go to London and you're on some little show in, I don't know, New York or Romania or wherever that's not widely seen, then, you know, it's a bit more of an explanation as to why they should see you. So being on Supergirl definitely raised my stock. And even though it was a role that was smaller than something I would normally go out for, the opportunity to be on a show that big, sort of satisfied my my requirements, at least for notoriety purposes. So let me just tell you a little bit about it and the skills I used and what I think sealed the deal for me. And hopefully you can apply some of these techniques to your own acting career success. And, you know, just a caveat, I know a lot of you guys who are watching are relative beginners, and then some of you are in the professional ranks. So if you are a beginner and you're planning on doing a lot of student films or independent films, some of this information isn't going to necessarily be that helpful, because the process for auditioning for amateur, smaller films and, you know, web series is not necessarily the same as it is in the professional world, because professionals really allow you to be a professional, meaning just let's see what you got. Whereas in the amateur ranks, the smaller independent film world, you know, student film world, they tend to want to tell you what to do because they have a vision and they just want you to show them exactly what's already in their head. So there's a difference that I just want you to be aware of. So, you know, I hadn't been in Vancouver in a long time, and I was in town. And so, you know, I have an agent who represents me in Vancouver. And I said, hey, I'm going to be in town for a while. They're like, great. And it's been a while. So almost the first day I got back, they sent me this audition. And it was for the role of this protester guy. It wasn't too exciting. There was only even a few words repeated over and over. And it was, you know, it was hard for me to get excited about it. I felt like a little bit slighted. But I said, you know what? I got to go back and reconnect with some of these casting directors because I haven't seen them in a long time. So I went in and it was really cool. Stuart, the casting director, remembered me from a long time ago when I had been in Vancouver previously. And he said, hey, David, good to see you. What have you been up to? We had that little tell me about yourself thing, right? And I just probably, I don't even know what I said to him, but I told him a fun little story. That's kind of my nature. Even if I don't plan on telling a story, somehow one comes out of me. And anyway, we got down to it. He said, you know, I'm not going to tell you too much. Let's just see what you've got for us. And so I did the lines, and that was it. He goes, that was great. That was great. He goes, you know what? Just keep going, okay? Keep going, and the reader will just keep going back to you. So basically, we're improvising now, right? And a lot of people panic at the thought of having to make up words or improvising because they're focused on booking the job and not just staying in the moment of whatever it is you're doing that made you say the lines they gave you. That's the same thing that will keep feeding you the improvised lines, right? Because we are always improvising as people. We never know exactly what we're going to say. We didn't write it down ahead of time. And usually when we do try to write things down ahead of time, like if for a phone call where you're going to give somebody, you know, royal heck, or even if you're going to say something nice to them, you're going to try and romance them, you know, we always screw it up when we write it down. So what's best is to follow your heart. So I just said, okay, you know, and I knew what I was saying was basically protesting aliens, right? Because there's aliens living among humans in this society that Supergirl lives in. And, you know, so it was sort of like a racist thing, really, right? But the different race was the alien race. So I was just acting like a redneck or like a racist or whatever you want to call it. And so I had a few lines, and then they said something back, and I just sort of went with it some more, and I made up some terms, I think, for aliens, and I knew what they were using as a term for aliens. So I thought, well, you know, if we're calling them cockroaches, what are some synonyms to cockroaches? What do you do to cockroaches? You spray them, you step on them, you know. I just went with it for probably 20 seconds. And then they just went, that was great, thank you. And honestly, it didn't feel like anything. It didn't feel like some magic moment, but I booked the job. And when I was on the set, again, it was hundreds of people. It was a real protest, and there were several of us scattered in the crowd with choice words that we were yelling at the other side. And then Supergirl comes down and sort of interrupts the whole thing with her explosive, you know, force, and we're stunned. But we shoot these things many, many times, right? Because it's really hard to tell for the director or the cinematographer whether the shot works in the context of all the other scenes and shots and angles. So you're going to shoot it from multiple angles, multiple times, and every single time they may want the same thing or they may want something different. You just never know. So you have to be very alert and on your game. And so I just, you know, when it came time to do my thing, I said my lines, and if they kept coming back at me, then I would keep going to them until they said cut. And again, the more I improvise, the better I get at it, right? So I'm getting really creative with the terminology, with, you know, what I'm calling the aliens, etc. And at some point there was a break, and the director actually came over and said, "What are you trying to do, steal my job?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You know, that's some very creative improvisation you're doing, you know, thanks a lot, because we just wrote this a day or so ago, and we weren't even sure whether this scene was going to make it in. So the fact that you were able to run with it and make it your own is, you know, I think really going to help this scene look more authentic, because when we write stuff the first time, we don't know how it's going to sound on camera. And honestly, the words that you were delivering of mine, I wasn't that happy with, and I was trying to think of some changes or suggestions, and I actually was thinking we're not even going to be able to use this scene because of the way it was written. So you really made my job, well, you didn't make my job better, because you made up the words that I wish I had made up. But I had the advantage, right? When you're in the moment acting and you've got the emotion that's driving it, it's much easier to improvise the right thing to say than when you're just sitting at a desk trying to write, trying to be creative, and you're on some sort of crazy deadline and you're not even sure if they're going to use your material at all. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to share that with you. It was really fun being on set. It was really nice meeting Supergirl. She actually had her dog with her. So Supergirl has a dog. I think there was an actual super dog at some point in the comic book universe. Not sure what became of it. And, you know, the director and the producer and the writer and everybody's really, really cool. And they said they're looking forward to having me back. So, you know, we'll see what happens. Because even if they canceled Supergirl, I have a relationship now with those people, those producers and writers, etc. So whatever they do in the future, they will always remember what I did on that show, and they will have a sense of what I can do for them in some other future capacity. So I hope this was helpful, guys. That's kind of, you know, the day in the life of my experience on Supergirl. And I hope that you learned something that you could take with you. And if you have any questions, comments, suggestions for future videos, please let me know in the comment section below. And as always, please subscribe and especially share with people you think could benefit from this information. I will talk to you soon.